All right. All right, man. Are y'all excited like I am? Because, man, we've been doing this a long time. We were just talking about it off air. 4 years we've been doing this, and not that often do I get this kind of excitement about the stuff, and particularly when we're not even going to show any film, man. Our guest today is fabulous. He's a friend, strong businessman, one of the smartest men I know as well, and I've known him a long time. And so we're going to bring him in a little bit, but I need to go ahead and remind everybody, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. Don't wait till the end. I know you're going to get excited when you hear some other stuff. Hit the likes, do all the things you can. Comment, chat, send your questions in. Thank you to Bama Standard for having their viewers in. It's always great to be able to partner with them. Yes, sir. Roll Tide, man. We do appreciate everything that you guys do over there. Make sure you're subscribing to their channel as well. Cuts, I'm looking forward to seeing you soon too. But here's the deal. No video, like I said today. There's so much we need to talk about the NCAA, the uh NILs, Congress. Man, I'm head blown because there's too much to be able to talk about. We got to get it all in. So I don't want to waste any more time. Let's go ahead and get Teague's take started right now. All right, all right, all right. Y'all know who that guy is on the screen. His name is JT T. There's two T's in there. I only use one of them. I don't know if he thinks I'm calling him James Theo or James Teague. uh, but man, he's the analytical one, the one that makes all this stuff look good, feel good, smell good. If you scratch on your screen a little bit, you can actually smell Teague's take, man. We smell really, really good. Just do it.
Don't do
Just
that.
do
Your
it.
screen is not a scratch and sniff. Do not touch your screen.
Just do it, man. Because man, we
And
be
wash your
bringing it
hands.
like
It's dirty.
that. Yeah, I would imagine JT has all this kind of disinfected. Him being the computer type guy that he is, he probably got this solution for his computers at home that
I
makes
really
everything.
should. And
Yeah.
this is why I have a dark colored keyboard. Emily has a white keyboard, and it's gonna be a terrible idea in just a matter of weeks.
Well, I was about to say something inappropriate and say, well, why you got the dark color board and she got the light color board, but everybody won't get that. Mario does though, but whatever. Right? Okay, so I need about a minute and a half to do a quick run out, JT, just so all our people know what's
Okay.
going on. Okay. You don't have to leave, or you can do it. All right.
No, we're good. Let's go.
Okay. So many of you know, or maybe you don't know, that I sit on the executive board of TAPS, right? This is called the Texas Association of Private Parochial Schools. We govern athletics and fine arts for about 250 schools. So why am I telling you this? As board members, we have the full and final authority to make controversial things, decisions. Whether or not we got to suspend coaches, fine kids or coaches for doing things after they get ejected. Does the school even belong in the organization? So I'm very intrigued by the NCAA and what they have to deal with because of the rules and regulations of hundreds of schools they have to deal with. I personally know how hard it is and how tough this can be on a case by case basis. So I catch myself saying, why do they make these decisions? Man, they tripping over there at the NCAA. But the truth of the matter is, I don't know the facts behind the scenes of what's going on with the NCAA and how they govern, for that matter. So I try hard not to judge too harshly because I sit in the same type of seat where people question TAPS, which I'm a significant part of. So I have to get better. And that's why I asked my friend, former teammate, to join us so I don't have to speculate and you don't either. So although he can't answer everything, he can enlighten us on some of the things we don't know or understand. So be very cautious of what you say or what you ask and how you frame your questions tonight because he's donating his time to talk with all of us. Just make him feel welcome. and be home, like we teachers do. Let's show him respect and gratitude for his time. That's my run out, JT. I do appreciate you for giving me an extra minute and a half to be able to talk about that. So let's go ahead and bring in JT. I already introduced him. JT, I told you about my buddy, right? I call him a friend. This he We played together, we roomed together, we sweated together, we partied together, whatever you want to call it, all of it, right? So I look at that first, right? Um, he's been an athletic director on the collegiate level for many years. He was at Wisconsin. I don't know if you actually went to that game when they actually came to.
I did.
Yeah, so he hooked us up, got us some tickets to come to that. He's been at Notre Dame, and now he's with the NCAA. Right, so you can be proud of all that, but you know what I'm proud of for him is I used to just call him Mister Mario Morris, like we are Mister that M and that R period. Well, now he is Dr. Mario Morris. Y'all give it up for Mario, man, coming in, spend some time with us. Yes, sir. Number 58, 1992 national champion. Man, used to bring the wood and hit some people, man. How you doing today, Mario?
Doing great, doing great. Great to be with you both. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we do want to say thank you for your time. We know you've been traveling today. You're out on the East Coast, so it's late and all those kind of things. So a big roll tied to you, and we want to jump into this because we don't want to keep you too long. And I know there's going to be a lot of things that I want to know and that others want to know too. So if we can get into it, man. Yeah, are
Let's
you
go.
okay with it? Just get
Let's
into
go.
it.
Let's
Okay,
go.
so one of the guys in the chat that you want to hear from, John Anu Fry Check. He actually sent this question in, so I'm gonna give it to him first. He's gonna be so proud of me. He's with Tide in Texas, right? So they raise a lot of money for uh, scholarships for people to go to it. This was his question. Number one, do you see a path for the NCAA to work with Congress and to get an antitrust exemption similar to what they've done with the Major League Baseball?
Yeah. Well, it's not like that first question. I think it's that's a difficult one. I mean, there are a lot of people when you say antitrust exemption, they're saying no way, right? When you go to Congress, and so, I think what we would, take a look at is, there's been a lot of litigation, and it's really prevented us from, enacting and implementing some of I think, the necessary guardrails when it comes to some of the NIL compensation, transfers and things like that to really keep, intercollegiate athletics healthy. And so I think it would probably be a more limited version of the antitrust exemption, just so we could actually sort of run the business of college sports without being, brought to court, every other day, which, it's happening, right? It was one of the surprises when I got to the NCAA was the amount of litigation. And being the CFO, I get to see the legal bills. So, they're a lot. And it really does prevent you from, I think doing the best for student athletes. But, we have to earn that credit too. And so we're obviously working with Congress on a few different things to try to help us with sort of the national standard for, NIL rules and, to make sure student athletes aren't classified as employees. And then maybe, some limited antitrust protection.
All right, yes, sir. Now he alluded to that, and I didn't say that. Now I know you guys maybe have seen the post because you're all in here, but he is the chief financial officer for the NCAA, senior VP of administration as well. So again, thank you for that. But you kind of just hit on something. You were talking about litigation and lawsuits, right? We're seeing players now starting to sue coaches, the conferences, the teams. I mean, what? How do you combat this?
Mm-hmm.
Do you even have to worry about it? I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm just confused on how you guys actually have to deal with lawsuits against you and the
Yeah.
universities.
Yeah, there's a lot of litigation. I mean, we actually get sued by the states as well.
Oh wow.
One of the reasons we just relaxed or got rid of or I think there was an injunction on the transfer requirements is because we, were brought to court by a couple of states that weren't happy. And so when anyone's not happy right now, let's take the NCAA to court. And so what it calls into question, I think, is sort of what's the governing role of the NCAA, because it seems like as you make national rules, that's when we run into trouble, from an antitrust protection or antitrust point of view. So, what's sort of the role of the NCAA, sort of going forward? And I think, you mitigate some of that risk by moving some of that governance out of sort of the national realm from the NCAA and maybe move it down to the conferences. And so the conferences could have, certain rules, right? And instead of the NCAA overall having a rule. And I think that's one way you start to mitigate and sort of try to reduce some of the litigation. I think moving forward with, compensation, I think that's going to sort of help mitigate some things. I know everyone knows about or may know about the proposed settlement with former student athletes. And we're hoping that may also mitigate some of the legal challenges that we're having, because it puts in a framework by which student athletes can start to benefit, schools can start to share revenue with student athletes. And then hopefully by doing some of these things that the litigation sort of starts to fall a little bit.
Yeah, but man,
Hold on.
go ahead.
Let me
JP.
jump in and ask this question, because this is one that we kind of casually just brought up a few shows ago. But since you mentioned the revenue sharing, what are the talks like around like whether Title IX is going to be part of that or not, and how do you navigate whether you have to kind of lean that way or not?
Yeah, it's complicated. You probably hear me say that a lot. It depends. I think there are different views on it right now. I think some people say absolutely Title IX will be implicated, and I think others will say, well, if it's based on market, metrics and performance, then maybe not. I can tell you this: I know that there are a lot of athletic directors and a lot of schools that are wrestling with this question right now. And in my past, I would probably err on the side of making sure that we were being equitable with regards to a revenue sharing scheme. And I think if you look back a couple of years ago, actually the schools have had some experience with this when the schools now pay Austin benefits to student athletes. So enhanced educational benefits, and that could be up to almost $6,000, per student athlete. And schools have implemented that differently, right? I think schools have made sure that they were being equitable between men and women's sports, but not every sport, not every school, gives it to every sport. Not every school gives it to, walk-on players, right? And so there is some differentiation that schools have already had some practice with regards to, giving out benefits to student athletes. And different schools do it very differently. And I think that's what you're going to see. I think you're going to see some schools probably treat it more like an educational benefit. And I think others will probably use it more as like NIL and being paid from the school for NIL. The problem with that is how do you value it, right? And then making sure again that you're being Title IX compliant, because even if legally you have a very good program that's market based, that may have some differentiation between the sports and between male and female sports, you're still going to get challenged. You're still going to get taken to court over it, right? And so is it worth it, to go through years of litigation? And in my mind, again, if I was sitting on a campus, I'd say no, and try to make sure we're being as equitable as possible and making sure we're giving as much opportunities to both men's and women's sports as we can.
How do you afford all these?
One more, because I need him to explain like I'm 5. What does Title IX actually require me to do as an institution?
Yeah, well, that's a really broad question, but I think in this context, most people would say it would require you to make sure that you're giving out benefits in proportion to the number of male and female students that are on campus, right? And so, if you have 55
student, it's not
student athletes, right? So it's students, and so if your school and there's something hidden. I was talking to somebody about this the other day about the changing demographics in college, and on certain campuses, female enrollment 60%, right? And so, now you have to offer athletic opportunities for up to 60% female, right? So it's students. And so that's where you get the percentages from. And so then you have to make sure that you're giving opportunity and you're giving certain benefits in that proportion, right? So if you have 55% female, you got to be giving 55% of your scholarships to females, 55% of the support. And obviously, if you're running a football program, that's going to distort things, right? And so you're seeing a lot of schools have had to add female sports to try to, make up some equivalency there. So it's so the metric is, the student population and what's that breakdown between men and women. And then in athletics, you have to offer those opportunities sort of in proportion to that. That's the basic. That's probably the most. That's the way that most institutions do it. There are a couple of other prongs, but this is probably the one that schools use the most.
Okay, thank you.
Makes it very difficult, though. I mean, it just makes it seem like it's just so sticky when you do that. When you're talking about revenue sharing and things of that nature. And I want to go on the record and say JT actually stole one of my questions. So I do appreciate you for us being on the same page, but I know that guy Derek Oden. What is he talking about? Derek Oden's one of our teammates.
Yeah, he wants to know if you guys are entitled to any of the funds, and I'll throw we in to include me. I was only 10 years ago.
So Do, I asked Mario this pre-show, and I said, with this settlement. So he talked about this $2.8 billion going to be paid out. I don't know, is it only football players or is it other?
No, it's complicated. So it's 3 different classes. One of the classes includes all student athletes, and so
what you're saying is everybody's about to get $5 and a cheeseburger.
Anyway, it's a lot of money, but I'm trying to figure out how they just decided. How did we whoever decide that we're only going back to 2016? Why not all the way back to 1989 to be exact for me? I need my $5 too, man.
So in antitrust law, in this case, you can only go back so far. So we're basically, guys, we're too old, and so it doesn't work. But I also told you, George, that we actually had the opportunity to be some of the first student athletes to receive an NIL payment. Because of the Ed O'Bannon and Sam Keller lawsuits against EA Sports and the NCAA a number of years ago.
Don't make me throw up my hands, dog. Don't make me throw up my hands, dog.
So there was a settlement actually that we could have opted into, and I did opt into it.
But you ain't tell nobody. You ain't call nobody and tell nobody, hey, go get your money. You trying to be quiet and be secret over there.
If you don't tell many people, right, the pie is larger for the people that are opted in. So it's like
he still only got 15 cents.
It was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think a lot of people.
Look, D.O. mad too. He like, what? They got some money? Yeah, man. He ain't called nobody, man, on the team, man. We supposed to be a unit, man. God,
in that case, we got really lucky because our national championship team was on that game every year. And so we got like credit and payment like for every year that game was going on. So yeah, it was good.
I missed it, dog. That's why I'm kind of hot, really, man. I need to move on off that question because I'm over here. I'm getting hot messing around with that. But my sidebar conversation, you keep talking about this litigation, right? And how much is happening. How y'all afford it, man? I mean, lawsuits are expensive. I mean, what do you do? Someone sues you? Is it like TAPS where we say if you're going to sue us, you're going to accrue all expenses? And if you lose, you basically pay twice. Yeah. So what kind of safeguards you got?
We have a small legal staff, so we outsource most of that, right? And so we have a lot of third-party law firms that we use, and it's very expensive. And look, this is public record. It's in our financials. I mean, I think we spend $50-60 million a year in legal fees, and that's the fees. That's not the settlement. And so it gets very costly. And so again, we're hoping by loosening some of these rules that we can start to mitigate, in some of these lawsuits. And it gets tiring too, right? When you're trying to manage and run intercollegiate athletics, and you get stopped and tripped up by lawsuits, every other week. So I'm hoping that we get to a place where they're not, as many lawsuits as there are today.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. Well, we need what, $50 million. JT, you know where we can go.
Cuss. You want me to just roll it?
We need to roll it because we can go to the beach for $50 million, man. If you don't feel like flying to Cancun or wherever it is to go see some nice, pretty water, Sandestin or something where I'm going to be in a little bit, y'all need to check this out because you can have your own beach in your backyard, Mario. If you don't know about it, take a listen to this. 1 minute.
Let me tell you about Beaches LLC. Yes, Beaches LLC is your source in the state of Alabama and the Florida Panhandle for exquisite quartz sand beach pools by Biodesign USA. A Biodesign beach sculpted pool is crafted with beach entries, customized seating areas, and swimming zones, and they all can be personalized to your swimming needs. The Biodesign swimming pool is meant to immerse you in your surrounding environment. The illusion of a truly beautiful beach can be created and extended onto the patio area, creating one seamless shore environment. Let them help you turn your dream backyard escape into reality with an eco-friendly, more durable, less time, and less expensive to maintain, totally customizable pool. To learn more about turning your dream into a reality, please visit their website at www.yourbackyardbeach.com.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. I love it. See, man. Thank you to our sponsors for doing this. Things are picking up with us there. We're already going to have another one in the next season. JT, I hadn't even told you this, about to close on another one. So we might have a couple more sponsors here coming in the year 5 that's going to be coming up soon. Okay, so JT, you were kind of asking about this, and I just saw the question that Derek had down there, which kind of goes in line with you. Yeah,
Yeah, you
you
wanted
want
me to
to
go ahead
pose
and
this?
do this.
No,
So
go ahead and hit it now.
with the climate of NIL and settlements and talks about schools being able to revenue share and just pay the player directly, then you think that the FBS national championship, at least for football, not basketball, but at least for football, um, is not, I don't know if sanction is the right word, but the NCAA does not run that tournament. So technically, they don't crown the champion, even though it goes down in the record books that way. Um, what is the need at the FBS Power 4, 3 level for the NCAA today?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I ask myself that question sometimes too. When I came to work here, I often thought about, the governance structure and the bureaucracy and whether we could slim it down some. Can you do less, right? Can you put more onus on the conferences to do governance, right? And so I think one of the best things the NCAA does is run those other 90 championships, right? I mean, we have some really great championships. And I think the schools want to compete in those championships. And I think you sort of lose the allure of the championships if the Power 4 or A4 are only playing themselves, right? What would March Madness be if you only had the A4 playing themselves, right? So some of that magic is, you got, David taking on Goliath, right? And so, and you have the upsets, every year. And so there's some magic there with regards to that. And I think the schools want to be able to play each other and have greater competition. But saying that, right, you have definitely seen the separation between the big schools and the little schools, right? I mean, and it's playing out in this settlement as well. And so about 10 years ago, the larger schools got some autonomy, to make certain rules on their own. And I think you're going to see just a greater push for that, where, hey, they look and feel different and they have different needs. And so can you create a structure, to where they're doing more, for like institutions for themselves underneath the NCAA umbrella. And so I think there definitely still is a need. The question is how much, how big should the NCAA be? What's the scope of it? Again, you're loosening some of the rules. So, how much of an NCAA do you need, and what goes down to the conferences? And those are questions that are going on right now. Last fall, President Baker put forward a proposal, Project D1, actually that provided compensation for student athletes, but it also started to talk about a different structure for the NCAA that really paid attention to the differences between those really large schools and the rest of Division I.
All right. Can we get into this compensation piece just a little bit and what's really happening here? Or maybe what does legislation actually say about all this now? Can schools actually arrange for endorsements to athletes? I know we're moving into this piece about getting paid, but I don't know. What do they say that a school can actually do now?
It's fluid. It's interesting you asked that question. As you know, I wrote an article a couple of years ago, and I said that I was at the institution at that time, and I was like, if schools can't help student athletes with this stuff, right? Is it really what's going to happen? Now, none of us envisioned that collectives would come, right, and take the place or take the void. But as of April of this year, the NCAA did pass legislation where schools can help facilitate NIL deals. I think the only thing that legislation didn't allow was schools to directly pay student athletes for NIL deals. And so schools can now provide a lot more services to student athletes. I remember I was at Notre Dame at the time, and I remember talking to somebody who was in charge of this, and she said, Mario, we help student athletes in every area of their life. And when it came to this NIL stuff, we just threw our hands up. And then the collectives came into the void, right? And so we allowed that to happen. But now schools can help facilitate NIL deals and provide a lot more services, legal services, financial advisory services, a lot of different things that help student athletes. So I think that was a great piece of legislation that just happened this past April.
Can you, I like what JT said, can you pretend like we're all 5 years old and tell us the difference between what a collective is versus a NIL deal?
I can't. So they're not all the same. Some of them act more like talent agencies, marketing agencies. Others are just trying to find the dollars to get the players to come to the school, right? And so, and then there's this, some kind of NIL quid pro quo that the student athlete is supposed to perform. Now, some of those aren't real market-based deals, right? But you do have some that are. That they're tied to brands. You saw Caleb Williams. I think he was on Dr. Pepper, and so you see some of this. But then you do see the ones that really they just
they ain't doing nothing. You go ahead and say it. They got these deals and say you're supposed to come on my podcast every week. I'm gonna give you $1 million to whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, I wish we had less of that. I really do, because it really goes against what NIL was meant to be. And again, I've always advocated for it being closer to the institution, because then you can tie it into your institution sponsors, the media partners, and the sponsorship corporate partners that you have at the university. And I always thought that was the way to go. And we didn't do that in the beginning. So hopefully you're going to see more of that. I know many schools have their corporate partnerships, and a lot of the corporate partners like Learfield and others are really building the capacity, to help their institutions, right? Help the student athletes secure deals. I think Learfield just announced something a couple of days ago where they're going to help their student athletes at those institutions really find sort of those branded deals, which are what I call the real NIL deals.
Which, don't they work with Alabama?
They do.
Oh yeah, okay.
That's how I listen to the games on the
radio. I just want to say, just in case all you Bama fans want to know. Anyway, okay. So my next one, and you alluded to your article that I read. First of all, listen, I'm a educator. I love education and all this kind of stuff. And Mario kind of sent me some stuff. He sent me an article to read on this, so I can kind of look up on what he did. And when you sent me your dissertation, I sent it over to JT, and I said, well, before I sent it to him, I said, JT, This damn thing is like 200 and something pages, and he want me to read all this and like overnight.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, come on, man. It got too many law terms and I got to keep going back. What case and all this? I said, oh man.
So I just linked
Yeah,
your
just-
your 2021 article
Yeah.
in the chat. That one's not a long read.
Yeah, and that's an easy read.
And
I told you to read the introduction and the ending. That's the way you get past it.
Yeah. So, but from that article that he just posted in there, make sure you guys check this out in our chat, in the Teague Steak chat. Mario, you stated as an AD that you had, this is in 2021, okay, when he wrote this. So you said you had concerns that we, the NCAA, universities, whoever, was rushing into things without not having enough information about, I'm assuming you were talking about NILs, collectives, and things about that. So now we're 3 years later. How you feel about it now? We got enough information. Is it clear? What's the deal?
I don't know if it's clear, but we got a lot more information. Looking back at the article, now that was in the middle of the pandemic, right? And so all of our attention was on getting people back in the stands and getting back to full capacity. And so while this was going on, we lost the Austin case, which again, some people would say had nothing to do with NIL, and it really doesn't. It was enhanced educational benefits, but it did send the signal that we better allow student athletes to be compensated for their NIL. And so,
question on that though.
Yeah.
The Ed O'Bannon case started in 2015.
Yeah.
So what was going on for 6 years?
So to the point, and to the NCAA's credit, and I had to be educated on this myself, they had been working. They had a working group that had been working on relaxing the rules, right? They just hadn't pulled the trigger on it, to be honest with you. And so they had been working on it. They had been working on it. They had a working group that had some recommendations. But the Austin case caused them to let go, right? And say, all right, we've got to go now, right? And so I'm trying to get back to the original question. We were so focused on the pandemic that while this was going on, nobody was really giving thought to sort of what are the complications that might happen. What are the other things we should have been considering? Nobody was considering collectives at the time. Nobody was also considering the relaxation of the transfer rules at the same time that you're granting NIL rights, right? Nobody, I wasn't. It's not in my article anywhere, but I felt like we were moving really fast, without considering, some of the things that could happen. And I'm not a savant or anything, but it was just like I felt like we were moving really fast. And we just, there's some things that, again, the collectives, if we had let institutions get involved more quickly early on, we may not have as much of the collective activity. And then if we had a thought about the transfer restrictions at the same time, we may not have done those both at the same time, right? Which is causing a lot of these issues. And so now I think we have that information now. It's sort of what can you do about it? And so because we do need some guardrails. But in this this environment that we're in with litigation, we will need some help from Congress to help put some guardrails around this.
All right, I see you got one queued up. This is from a former player, another national champion, punter with the University of Alabama. So he wants to know if you can speak on this process. I think he's trying to get some of his money because he was there
trying to get his bag of chips.
Yeah, he's trying to get his cheeseburger, so he want to know where he go to get it. Can you help him out a little bit or what?
Well, if you played between 2016 and 2024, you're in luck. But if you played before that, no, sir.
No, he was there. He was there.
So what will happen is if the settlement is approved, there's an administrator will be appointed, and that law firm will send out notices, to all former student athletes and current student athletes, basically letting them know sort of about the process, how to opt in or how to opt out of it. And so there'll be a lot of information coming, if the settlement is approved by the judge and once an administrator is appointed.
This is like the NFL cases where they always send us something because they're trying to give us some kind of medical something, and you get the letters and all this stuff. So what he's saying is, answer your damn email. Make sure you call that administrator, or you're gonna get left behind because a lot of people miss their money. And Mario had already told you how he is. He ain't gonna call you and tell you, man, get that money. He's just gonna let it sit because they're gonna divide that up.
He also said it's gonna be a whole lot. The pot is a whole lot smaller because the Ed O'Bannon case settled for $46 million, I think, and this one is, what do you say, 2.8 billion?
Billion with a B. Yeah.
For
it's gonna be
every NCAA athlete over the last 10 years.
He said there was 3 buckets.
It's three buckets, and so the largest one will be for football players and men's, women's basketball players. But there is a bucket for all NCAA student athletes, and so
they're the one. They gonna get a Checkers burger. Yeah, everybody knows. They ain't even gonna get an In-N-Out burger.
Checkers burger back in the day was all right.
Oh, well, Derek was talking about lawyers. You shouldn't have to have a lawyer to get this money.
No. He's saying that the anytime you've got a class action like this, the lawyers are the ones that make out with the bag, not the
Yeah, they do. They get a pretty penny out of it. I mean, they get a nice cut of it. You're right.
Yep. So have you had to deal with Congress? It's just weird even talking about the NCAA and Congress. Did you get to go sit on these meetings, or you just get debriefed? Or
not me personally, but definitely in our leadership meetings, we talk about what our strategies are and sort of update on sort of, how things are going. And it's different every day because, as you know, we're in an election year. And so some people would say, the chances of anything happening over the next year is going to be very difficult. But then there is a lot of bipartisan support, which you wouldn't think so in Congress these days. But, there is bipartisan support for not having student athletes be employees. The question is, what do they give up if we pass a law that says they're not employees? What are we having them give up? And so we are working very hard. Obviously, our president was a former governor of Massachusetts, so he has a lot of those great relationships with Congress people on both sides of the aisle, and so we are, trying to move the agenda forward.
So, can you actually separate yourself from being a former player versus a NCAA worker? Because it seems like there could be a divide where you maybe want to be on the side of the player versus the side of the organization. So, how hard is it for you to do that? Before I ask my,
I think that's a really, really great question. I'll always be true to myself. And look, as a former player, I came from nothing, and so I put myself in a position of a lot of those players who can take care of their families. This may be the biggest paycheck that they can get, for a long time, right? This may be their highest earning potential. And so I believe in capitalism. I believe in free markets. And so I believe they should be able to, they're bringing in billions of dollars in this sport. And so I think they should be able to capitalize off of that. I do want to make sure that we keep the academic mission in the forefront, because for the vast majority of these players, right, getting a great education and establishing a relationship with those peers in that college environment, that's what's going to pay off in the end, in the long run, right? I wasn't a professional football player, but by getting my education, right, and making those connections, I was able to become, successful. And so, internally, I'm in the meetings with leadership meetings, but I put forward the position of being a former student athlete and really, coming not from a lot and being able to play in a sport that brought in a lot of money for the institution, to say, student athletes should be able to earn some of that, right? But I also believe in the academic mission. Obviously, I've been in school for 50 years, so you can tell that I really, enjoy and I value education, and so I just don't want us to get too far away from that. And that's the one thing that sort of concerns me about the employment movement. A job becomes a job, right? And it's the defined job, and you may lose. There may become greater distance between the academic and athletic missions.
Okay, thank you for that, sharing that. You're saying you got the backs of the players while you're in there. So as we get ready to wind down with our time here, I do want to ask another one from a player's perspective, if you can do that, since you just did that. So you just hit on about being employees potential. Can you give us two or three pluses and maybe two or three minuses of actually being a employee as an athlete at the university?
I'll say this. I think there are features of the employment system that we're trying to mimic that are beneficial, right? Can we make sure? So, being an employee, some of the benefits are, hey, you can collectively bargain for a wage in many cases, right? You can, there's a grievance process. There's rules between sort of, hiring and firing. There's health, there's benefits, that come along with, being an employee. And I think we tried to mimic those without actually having them be employees. Now, some of the things, it's a job, right? It's employment, and sort of in our environment, who would be employees? And so my dissertation goes into this. How do you decide which student athletes are employees and which student athletes aren't employees? Are all student athletes
They're all employees.
Entitled to minimum wage and entitled to overtime and so well, JT, I want you to read my dissertation because there's a way where you can make some of them not employees. But no,
Tell me what page you go to.
But what I did just really quickly, I looked at what the courts have said in the past about what makes a student athlete an employee and what doesn't, right? And so you would have to design a system where this group has certain rules and this group, you have less control over this group, right? And, it's not all the way to a club sport, but it would be something sort of in between sort of what we have today in the club sport for them not to be employees. But yeah, I mean, it's a job, right? I mean, can you think about performance reviews for student athletes? Is the coach, the supervisor? Can you think?
Who called you in and fired you? Is that what you said? Hey, man,
that's what I'm saying, right?
This is it. We already cleaned out your locker, bro. It's over.
So what are the complications with that? Now, again, I like some of the features of employment, right? I mean, there's certainty there, right? You know what the wages are, what the benefits are, what the contractual rights and obligations are, right? You could put back in transfer restrictions, right?
I was about to say, how does it change that though? Because you sign a contract, right?
Sign a contract, right? And so you couldn't prohibit anybody from going to another school, but you could put something. I could see you put something in to say they couldn't participate in that sport, for a year if they transferred to a different school. So
is that going to hold up in each state though? Because I don't have my contract. I've had a contract in Texas that says non-solicit, non-compete. Yeah. But I work for a California company now, and that's not legal to have in my contract. So, can you still do that?
Great question. T, you got a smart son.
I told you.
That's one of the complications, and right, that's why you would need sort of a national rule from Congress to come and help with that. It's the same thing that's happened in NIL. That's why it's so crazy because every state has their own different rules, and that's why you need help from Congress to be able to implement something like that.
Okay. Well, man, listen, I know we could do this all night and all this kind of stuff, and you've been gracious. Everybody need to really thank him. We need to give him a round of applause. He flew back early for us. He came in, held his obligation. I can't tell you. Oh, look at that. You already know.
Hey, I tell you what, with Teague, I didn't have to worry about what happens in the middle of the night.
D.O., man, I need to get D.O. back on and just tell stories because that dude, he can cut some hair and he can do some things, but you were going to leave out of there hurt by the time he got done hitting you on the back of the neck. Because he didn't have the little the feather brush to get the dirt out of you, so he used them old them back hands.
You both were great. The one thing I can't tell, both of you guys, I can tell you cared about me. We cared about each other, and that's really true. I know we joked around a lot, and Derek probably was a little rougher, but we all cared about each other and always cherish those memories. Absolutely.
Yes, sir, man. I can't thank you enough. We really do appreciate you taking the time and opening up and giving us a great insight. You can't get this anywhere. Teague's Take, man. We done it. This is a big one, man. Thank you. You can see all the thank yous coming in, all this kind of stuff, because people don't understand. I don't even understand. Everybody's proud, and we know that you made a serious sacrifice, and maybe got on the limb a little bit to come hang out with your boy and talk about this. So thank you for for it. I need to let you get to sleep. You're out there on the East Coast. Let you get back to your beautiful wife, kids. I know. I guess you got to go into the office tomorrow, probably at some point.
Oh yeah. Hey, we're trying to work on this settlement, man. So,
Yeah. So we're gonna let you go. One more round of applause, and you can go ahead and get out of here, man. Thank you, brother.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate y'all. Thanks, Theo. Take care now.
Yeah, I like how you Theo. I love it. Man, JT, I mean that was like one of my all-time favorite. And I get really excited when we're doing film and all this kind of stuff, but I just think that we're blessed and fortunate to have someone like him, to come in from the NCAA, man. I'm still tripping over that we got somebody in the building that can give us real stuff, man. Hopefully you were excited as I am.
Yeah, I mean it's hard getting any information from the NCAA, right? I mean they're a very large entity, right? So everything that you hear from statements are all kind of like PR people trying to just make a statement, right? Or maybe it's Mark Emmert being the president, kind of just shooting off at the mouth, whatever he feels like saying that day. But now you've got somebody with some actual insight that has to deal with it day to day, right? And not just the give me a report on how it went this quarter.
You're right. So, hey, all of you guys are listening. Thank you guys for being here tonight. This is awesome. Please make sure you guys let people know what this is, where they can go back and watch it if they missed it, right? Make sure you subscribe to our channels. Thank you, Bama Standard, and all the folks over there that are part of this. We really, really appreciate your support and listening. You Teagsters, man, thank you for doing that. And a big shout out to the Star We Are. We got a lot of Cowboy fans in here today. As well, we got Cuts by Jones. Thank you, man. I got to show y'all something by him a little bit later. I'm going to get to see him later this weekend. JT, man, it's just I ain't even gonna tell you what it is, but we got some good things happening there. So, man, this has been good. I'm gonna have to decompress a little bit because this is like a game to me, JT. When it happens, I don't know how you are after a game. I can't really sleep after a intense moments, whether it's good or bad. It takes me a minute. I gotta decompress, and that's how I am after these shows. So I'm gonna get out here early tonight. I think we gave them great information.
Mm-hmm.
You got any closing words you need to give before we let everybody get out of here?
No, I mean just check out the article that I posted from Dr. Morris. It's pretty good. It's a short read, and trust me when I say it's a short read, it really is, because I don't do much reading.
Right.
If you want to find his dissertation, I'm sure it's on like Google Scholar or something. But yeah, that's a long PDF, and it's a single line spaced, MLA format, all that kind of stuff. So check it out. Keep in touch. Subscribe to our channel. Trying to we're on the push to 2,000. So
trying to get to $2,000. Y'all help us there. Send some people to us, man. We'll do it. We love it. So
also, Family Scholarship Fund. I don't remember the website. What is it? Teague's Family Scholarship Fund.com.
TeagueFamilyScholarship.com. TeagueFamilyScholarship.com. If you like what we do here, man, we don't normally ask for a whole lot of stuff, but you can donate into that. That'd be great. If you could just go hit that.
You also have memorabilia, signed memorabilia, football cards, jerseys, possibly footballs. Millions.co/George-Teague.
That's right. Thank you, guys. And y'all need to go there anyway to Millions, because everybody, how many times people DM me and ask me for a little video or something. Have you ever heard of Cameo and all that stuff where you can pay?
Yeah.
For people to do that. Millions does the same thing. So if y'all need, I get it all the time. Man, can you send something to my cousin, my uncle, give him a shout out, he's sick, or he's just a big time fan? There's a way for you to do that. Just go to millions.co and request it from me, and I'll I can make it happen for you. So thank you all once again, man. JT, let's get out of here. And man, it's been for real. It's Teague's Take, baby. He's JT. I'm GT. And this has been A Teague State. We out.